At least 9 people were killed Thursday as a result of crossfire between Yemeni and Israeli military forces after short-range ballistic missiles were fired at Tel Aviv. Russian armed forces launched a long-range precision-guided weapons strike against Kyiv military targets in response to the Ukrainian aggression towards a defense facility. And the president of France, Emmanuel Macron, became the target of criticisms from local residents during his visit to the archipelago of Mayotte, devastated after the passage of Cyclone Chido. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. At least 9 people were killed Thursday as a result of crossfire between Yemeni and Israeli military forces after short-range ballistic missiles were fired at Tel Aviv. Al-Masira, a Houthi media channel, said that Israel, for its part, launched a series of attacks against Yemen's capital Sana'a and the city of Hodeidah, located in the Houthi-controlled region of the country. It also said that strikes on the Al-Saleh port had killed 9 people, while another person was injured in the strike on the oil facility. Yemeni military forces continue to attack targets in Israeli-occupied territories. The Lebanese resistance movement Hezbollah condemned the Israeli regime's aggression against Yemen, which caused the death of at least 9 people. Through a communique, Hezbollah emphasized that the Israeli attack targeted civilian installations, including power plants, in violation of all international laws. Furthermore, the Lebanese resistance movement pointed out that this aggression reflects the ongoing Zionist brutality and serves as an extension of the open war against the peoples of the Arab nation, particularly Palestine, Lebanon, and Syria. In this regard, Hezbollah called on the unity of all free nations of the world and the resistance forces to confront the aggression against the peoples of the region. Palestinian authorities denounced that Israeli occupation forces have massacred 77 Gazans and injured 174 others in the last 24 hours in the Strip. Overnight, Israeli forces dropped shellings on a residential building in Beit Hanun city, claiming the lives of a married couple and their 2 daughters in the north of the besieged Gaza Strip. Another occupation aggression towards the city of Rafah and Gaza have left 6 dead and several injured. Meanwhile, thousands of people are still messing under the rubble as 90% of the Gaza Strip's infrastructure has been destroyed. Moreover, famine made dozens of children and elderly starve to death. The Palestinian Health Ministry reported that 45,206 Palestinians have been slaughtered as a result of the Israeli genocidal campaign in force since October 2023. Israeli senior officers quitted their jobs and posts in the occupation forces while they were mounting military operations against Palestine, Lebanon, Iran, and Syria. Over 500 active senior officers have deserted, arguing that their retirements are due to the ongoing conflicts. The Israeli national press exposed that such crisis has been going on since 2022, where over 610 officers have been discharged despite the fact that there are economic conditions for reservist personnel. In this context, the Israeli occupation forces have shown concern over their attempt to surge the number of high-level officers, but official sources reveal that they have lost over 800 active and reserve personnel since October 7, 2023, after the current offensive. In Syria, social organizations and civil youth groups marched to demand a democratic and civil state in the country. Demonstrators gathered in Damascus' Umayyad Square, the first of its kind after the fall of the Bashar al-Assad government by the ongoing popular movement to build Syria. The participants call for a civil state free from military or religious rule. The organization point out that they want a Syria that includes pro-building and pro-emerging segments of society and not governments based on narrow religious foundations. Russian armed forces launched a long-range precision-guided weapons strike against Kyiv military targets in response to the Ukrainian aggression toward a defense facility. The Russian Defense Ministry reported having hit a command center of the Ukrainian Security Service and positions of the Patriot anti-aircraft missile system. Moreover, the Russian armed forces struck the Lock Design Bureau, headquartered in Kyiv, which develops and manufactures Neptune missile systems and Olka ground-launched cruise missiles. On Thursday, the ministry announced that on December 18th, the Ukrainian army targeted a southwestern Russian company with 6 US-made missiles and 4 Storm Shadow cruise missiles. In Russia, a passenger and a freight train collided this week in Murmansk province, bringing about 2 deaths and 42 injured so far. Authorities reported Thursday that the crash within the Murmansk-St. Petersburg route led to the derailment of 21 cars, including 4 of the passenger train. They further announced inquiries are underway to find out the causes of the accident. Likewise, they informed that the police had arrested the driver of the freight train and his assistants as main suspects of having violated security rules. And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The President of China, Xi Jinping, led both the act in commemoration of the 25th anniversary of the reunification of Macau with China and the sworn-in ceremony of the 6th government of the Special Administrative Region. Both events were held in the morning at the Macau East Asian Games Dome, in which the President presided the oath of office of the new Chief Executive of the Macau Special Administrative Region, Sam Ho-fei. Likewise, senior authorities of the new administration attended the so much warmly received sworn-in act. It is worth to recall that China resumed its exercise of sovereignty over Macau on December 20, 1999. Therefore, the Chinese government set Macau as the country's second special administrative region after Hong Kong. The Sri Lankan Navy rescued Friday over 100 people estimated to be Rohingya refugees after they were found adrift on a fishing boat off the country's coast. Military authorities unfolded that fishermen had spotted the refugees, including 25 children and 30 women. Moreover, the Sri Lankan Navy provided support to the refugees, notwithstanding their whereabouts have not been confirmed yet due to communication problems. They further revealed that those rescued received medical attention as well as food and water. It is worth noticing that the fact that hundreds of thousands of Rohingyas, namely Muslim, have fled Myanmar in recent years due to discrimination and persecution against the ethnic group. In the United States, 2 workers were killed and 3 people were injured when a freight train collided with a trailer in a town in south of Texas. The accident took place at 5 in the afternoon following a collision between the train and the vehicle, which was stopped at the crossing in the town of Pecos. Local police chief Lisa Tarango said the crash caused 3 cars carrying hazardous materials to derail, but there were no chemical leaks. One of the injured was taken to the Odessa hospital in critical condition, while the two others were taken away with minor injuries. Official data revealed the highest rate of U.S. deportations since 2014 under Biden's administration. The U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, reported having deported at least 271,484 immigrants in the fiscal year, the highest figure in a decade. The entity asserted that it had even surpassed the massive deportation processes under the first Donald Trump's term. U.S. President Joe Biden justified the upsurge of deportations in alleged threats to public safety and national security from October 1, 2023 to September 30, 2024. In Argentina, the government authorized this Thursday two of its officials to request support from the armed forces in places they consider of a strategic value for the state. The executive power authorized the Ministers of Defense, Luis Petri, and of Security, Patricia Bullrich, to request support from military personnel or from provincial police forces and from the city of Buenos Aires in situations of internal commotion. The decree calls into question the defense law since it does not clearly or explicitly define what a strategic value objective is. Therefore, it gives national officials the power to define or redefine this concept. In Argentina, the National Institute of Statistics and Census reports that unemployment affected 6.9% of the population living in metropolitan areas in the third quarter of this year. This data shows an increase of 1.2% in relation to the same quarter of the previous year. Similarly, the data shows that the number of unemployed rose from 814,000 to 994,000 in just 1 year in the 31 metropolitan areas analyzed. Taking into account the entire population of Argentina, this means that almost 1.6 million people are looking for work and are unable to find it, whereas a year ago this phenomenon affected just under 1.3 million people. In Argentina, this December 20th marks 23 years of the fall of the government of La Alianza, led by Fernando de la Rúa, who left the Casa Rosada in a helicopter after 2 years in office. In the midst of economic, political and social collapse, the government of Fernando de la Rúa was faced with a social outburst of unprecedented proportions, which has repressed under a state of siege, leaving 38 people dead, hundreds injured, and 4,000 people arrested. 23 years after the so-called Argentinazo, as each year, an event in Plaza de Mayo will take place. The march will be in defense of public health and education, for wages, retirement, and pensions, for the right to protest, and for all the living conditions and democratic rights, as well as to overthrow the base law of Javier Milei. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The President of France, Emmanuel Macron, became the target of criticisms from local residents during his visit to the archipelago of Mayotte, devastated after the passage of Cyclone Chido. The President faced the impatience and anger of the people, who demanded his resignation and denounced the government's lack of action to come to the aid of the people affected by the cyclone. In response to the criticisms, Macron could not detail the supposed measures taken to solve the crisis in the area and lashed out at the residents, saying that he is not responsible for the catastrophe. The French leader indicated to the residents that if they were not part of France, they would be much worse, as he considers that they are receiving sufficient aid. In Haiti, a new state of emergency will be declared after the Council of Ministers imposed it, citing growing insecurity and violence in the country. This will take place from next Sunday in a context of massacres by armed gangs against the civilian population. The reason given was to facilitate the various interventions of the Haitian National Police in the fight against insecurity and to address the agricultural and food crisis in the country. The one-month state of emergency will last from December 22nd, 2024 to January 21st, 2025. Emmanuel Macron, a lawmaker who was murdered in Antigua and Barbuda last month, was buried on Thursday following an official funeral. Patrice Martin of the Antigua and Barbuda Broadcasting Services reports on the tributes. Let's see.
Today, we come together to celebrate the extraordinary life and enduring legacy of the Honorable Asad Anthony Michael. While the weight of his loss is immeasurable, we stand united in gratitude for a life lived with purpose, passion, and an unyielding commitment to the people of Antigua and Barbuda.
Sister of the late MP Teresa Ann Michael delivered the eulogy at the official funeral at the Holy Family Cathedral. Though a somber gathering, it was also a celebration for the man who touched many lives throughout his over 2 decades of public service. A large number of people turned out to pay their final respects, one of whom was family friend Dr. Leon Errol Court.
His passion for service was fueled by a deep love for his country. Through his tireless efforts and immeasurable philanthropic contributions, he left an indelible mark on the lives he touched.
Former Member of Parliament for St. Philip's South, Lennox Weston, reflected on the life and service of his student at Sunnyside Primary, who would later become his political comrade.
Assad succeeded in leaving major footprints and a political legacy that will influence politics for a long time.
According to Weston, Michael's priority remained the people of the St. Peter constituency. Weston said he possessed a competitive nature, one he used to his advantage during campaigning and election seasons. Niece of the former MP, Marissa Michael, an aspiring surgeon, attributes her dedication and calling to the teachings of her uncle. She echoed some of his advice that remains etched in her memory.
Uncle Asad ensured I understood the value of service and respect. Though a silver spoon may have been on my place setting, I learned to serve with it, whether fetching drinks for guests or helping with hors d'oeuvres. These lessons of hospitality and humility have shaped both my personal and professional journey. I return to the question of who am I? One that has become even more poignant as I interview for a surgical residency. When I get asked what makes me unique, I say 2 things: my ability to connect with people from all backgrounds, and my unwavering dedication to achieving my goals. These traits are both a direct reflection of Uncle Asad's influence and, to some extent, common personality traits we share.
There was a viewing of the late MP's body at his home in Dry Hill early Thursday morning, the location where he met his untimely death on November 5, 2024. Following the funeral service, there was a procession to the St. John's Public Cemetery for interment. Several onlookers gathered along the sides of the road as the cortege passed. At the cemetery, a gun salute and presentation of the flag from the coffin were part of the solemnity of the occasion. Wreaths were laid by officials and members of the family.
The outburst of a riot in the Social Reintegration Center of southeastern Tabasco, Mexico, claimed at least 7 inmates' lives and 10 people injured, including 4 officers. Violence and crossfire began at 5 a.m. on Thursday morning when security officers entered the center to transfer 2 prison leaders. In this context, the State Public Prosecutor's Office opened a file to clarify the incident. In addition to the Tabasco riot, revolts have been staged in several localities of the state, Villahermosa, where around 10 vehicles were burned down. This December 20th marks 35 years of the U.S. invasion of Panama to capture General Manuel Antonio Noriega 35 years ago. Panama was a laboratory for the most advanced warfare technology designed by the United States. The so-called Just Cause operation had the objective of capturing Manuel Antonio Noriega. As a result, this brought death, especially in poor neighborhoods. In addition to the human losses, the aggression left thousands of people homeless. The U.S. troops made no effort to limit themselves to military targets and avoid damage to the lives and property of the civilian population. In Cuba, authorities reiterated on Thursday the call for a popular march in front of the U.S. Embassy to be held on Friday, December 20th, against the blockade. The march, called by the plenary session of the Central Committee of the Communist Party, will take place at the end of the session of the National Assembly of People's Power, with the aim of expressing in front of the U.S. Embassy in Havana the condemnation of the economic, commercial and financial blockade imposed by Washington and the permanence of Cuba on the illegitimate list of countries allegedly supporting terrorism. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many of the stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. See ya. Thank you for watching.